Welcome back to the Figly podcast. In this episode, Peter and Will chat with Cesar Lainez, a Penn graduate from the class of 2024. Cesar graduated from the Wharton School, focusing on areas of business analytics and marketing and operations management. This episode focuses on navigating living off campus and budgeting, as well as balancing social life and money. We also talk about learning how to network and face rejection when applying to jobs post-grad. Cesar is also an incoming Capital One Developer Academy associate. He hopes to one day launch a family business in the food industry, but also has an interest in tech, media, and sports.
What's up, everybody? We are the Figly Podcast, and today we have this week's guest, Cesar Lainez, and your hosts today are Will and Peter. How are you doing today, Cesar?
I'm good. It was a calm day. Not a lot of work, thankfully. Woke up feeling good. Took a shower in the morning, which isn't the usual, but it felt nice. I shower at night.
He showers every night.
So it felt nice. It's been a good day. Yeah.
Good to know. Well, awesome. I guess tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Cesar. I'm originally from Miami, Florida. And I'm a senior in Wharton, studying business analytics and marketing and operations management, which is a lot of words. And my other involvements on campus include Onda Latina, the dance troupe. I'm also in Simply Chaos, the stand-up comedy troupe. I also work part-time at Financial Wellness at Penn, which is an organization aimed at empowering students to be financially well. And beyond that, I was involved in some other clubs, notably Wharton Step. We helped underrepresented students in Wharton kind of get acclimated to the transition to Wharton. And then I did some other things with the McNulty Compass Leadership Program. It was a leadership program based on going out into nature and learning about yourself. Besides that, on a personal level, I love sports, basketball, football, soccer. I love video games a lot. I love to eat. My favorite soda is Dr. Pepper.
Wait.
And my favorite movie of all time is Shrek 2.
Okay, so, Shrek 2, iconic. Shrek 2, I agree.
Which is re-releasing in 2 weeks.
I saw that.
So I will be outside.
Okay. I will be joining you, actually.
Let's go.
Dr. Pepper, great take.
It's great. I've recently found out
hot take.
There are Dr. Pepper fans in my surrounding circle, so I'm very happy. Yeah. So it's great. People hate. I actually drank some today. So.
Oh, wow. I don't know. Growing up, I was told that Dr. Pepper would get you smelly, so I just refused to drink it. I don't know where that came from.
I don't know. Maybe
Coca-Cola was spreading rumors.
Oh, my fault.
Yeah.
You're probably right.
I don't know. Do I smell?
If anything, you smell great.
Thank
so
you.
They lied.
It's Dior.
Yeah. It's Dior. Okay.
Awesome. So let's move on to the icebreaker for this episode.
Let's do it.
What is the most ridiculous thing you have bought impulsively?
I have a great answer for this. I was at a mall with my girlfriend one time, and they had a farmer's market day. And for some reason, I was really fiending for a pina colada that day. Mm-hmm. And mind you, this is a Sunday at 2 p.m. So we were going through a farmer's market, and then they were selling pina colada. And I was like, well, I'm going to buy it. And it looked good. And I was like, oh, I really want it. And, support local businesses and all, but they charged me $20 for it.
$20?
And I kid you not, I had one sip, and it was so bad, and I couldn't finish it. So, literally $20 down the drain in 10 minutes for something I didn't even consume. So that was pretty bad. Yes, very unfortunate time. Mm-hmm.
I think the most ridiculous thing I've ever bought impulsively was when I was scrolling on TikTok at 2 or 3 a.m. and I was hungry. I was starving, and TikTok caught me in the right mood because I saw this 2-pound tub of random gummies, and that it was $40, and I bought it immediately. And then I'm telling you, when it came, it was just a huge bucket full of all types of gummies you can think of. And that was actually the best purchase ever. So I don't know, I love it.
Nice.
I'm trying to think of one. Maybe two things. First thing, you know those those like TikTok videos where they like make a drink and it's like a perfectly like spherical like ice cube.
Yeah.
You know
Mm.
I
The
like
molds?
Yeah.
yeah. Like the like spherical ice cube molds.
Mm-hmm.
I kept on seeing them and I was like, it's only like $10. So I snatched one and then I've never used it since.
I was about to say, how often have you used it?
Nice.
Yeah.
And then we have another question. I want to see how creative you could get here.
Okay.
If you could redesign the classic dollar bill, how would you redesign it?
I'd put my face on it.
Oh, of
No,
course,
I'm
of
playing.
course.
I'm not worth $1. I'm worth more.
Okay.
Anyways, I'd probably put like a dollar bill. I feel like some type of like animated character probably. I feel like that would be cool. Like imagine if we had all our bills in like animated characters. Like what if like Woody and Buzz, were on there, or like Shrek.
Or like
Check on the dollar bill.
Lightning McQueen.
Shrek on the $2 bill.
Shrek on the $2 bill. I know that's right. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'd probably put like some, cause like historical figures, like it's cool, I guess, but put like animated characters in history, like the ones that stood out, that made the culture happen. That's what I would put.
All right. Well, I guess let's get started with some of the juicy questions.
Let's go.
We actually found your article on off-campus housing as a highly aided students. Could you share some like insights about what you've learned?
Yeah. So I wrote that article as part of my job for financial wellness. We try to post an article a month about just things that we've experienced in our lives that we feel could help others. So last year in, I want to say like January, February time, I knew I wanted to move off campus. I had lived on campus my sophomore and junior years, but my roommate was graduating, and I was like, I don't really want to, try to get a room with a random, I guess. So I was looking for off-campus housing. I also wanted like, I guess the more liberty, right? Like when you live on campus, you have to like sign your guests in and stuff, and I was like, that's a little annoying. So was looking for that. I kind of more or less knew how much money I had based on, talking to my boss and seeing online, like the housing aid that Penn gives you essentially. Given that, and also that I'm kind of cheap, I was like, okay, I have like $1,000 to work with per month. And I realized that was like reasonable at first, actually, though. I was trying to get something by myself, and then I realized that's not possible at $1,000 unless I live super far. So I was like, that's not happening. So I then turned to trying to like get my friends and I to find a place. I'll never forget, like me and my boy and like 4 other people. Apparently we were looking at this house, and it was only gonna be like $800 per person. I was like, oh, this is great. Sorry, excuse me. And then yeah, it just like fell through because it was like so many random people. Like we were like all friends of friends, I guess, but it was like and I also wasn't kind of feeling it, so I'm kind of glad it didn't go through. And then I was just back on like the search on my own, using this website that Penn has to like look for apartments. And I got lucky because one of my friends was also looking to move off campus, and like me and him just started looking together. And then to be honest, I only toured 2 places, but they seemed good to me at the right price, and then I ended up signing the lease and moved off campus.
Honestly, like I've always found off-campus housing really intimidating, just because it's I know it requires a lot of labor, and especially to get like a really good, like what's that saying, like a buck for your something for your
Bang
buck.
for your buck.
Bang for your buck, exactly.
Yeah.
So I frankly just avoided that and just decided to just stay on campus for the next following year. But off-campus housing is something I've always been interested in. It's just like I don't even know how that process looks like.
Yeah.
So
What are some things that you found like surprising, like you were like learning on the way, like as you were going through off-campus housing?
At first, I guess the first thing is like I thought searching would be much harder, in terms of like actually finding buildings, but low key, like if you go on the website online, like you can look at everything. Then after that, it's really just about like getting in contact with like the property manager or landlord, and then getting like an appointment, which also isn't too bad. Or you could also do like 3D virtual tours, which are fine. I think the hardest part honestly was like trying to get other people to live with you, just because people have so many different preferences. and like it's like somewhere that you're gonna live in for like the next, or for like 8 months, I guess. So you have to make sure like you agree basically on a lot of things with like your roommates or your potential roommates, and that's low-key like what was the hardest. And then to be honest, I got lucky because it was only me and my friend, and then the third person we kind of waited all summer to join, but then he turned out being really cool. So yeah, I got pretty lucky, I would say.
Nice.
Do you have like, I guess since you've lived off and on campus, would you say there are any like pros and cons for each? Which one do you prefer more?
Yeah, big thing I learned this year was that I suck at waking up as it is. So I knew going into this year, because I lived so close to my classes these last 2 years, I could wake up like 5 minutes before and then make it to class on time. It was not the case this year because it's like at least a 15-minute walk. So that's definitely like something to think about, is like if you have early classes, like you gotta be up earlier or you gotta find a way to get there. So I started catching the bus even sometimes to get to work on time, and I was like, yeah. But on campus, you could just walk in 5 minutes, you're in class. So that's a big one. Like I mentioned earlier, the kind of freedom to like have people over whenever, that's really like a big pro for off-campus housing. And what else? I guess like there's also more freedom for like how to like decorate your room, or like what furniture you want, things like that you probably can't do like on campus. So that's also pretty cool.
I haven't even thought about that. I forget that like you can't really do stuff. I mean, my room is decorated. Don't let the RAs know, but like having that liberty to get something besides a twin XL kind of does sound very, very
the bed was really nice. Yeah, getting a bigger bed is clutch.
Yeah.
But you know, there's also a lot of things now you have to deal with on your own. Like my building doesn't really have security, so like not that it's a big issue, but you know, you just have to be more on the lookout. There's, in my building at least, there's like limited laundry. So is there only one washer and dryer per floor. There's like 12 rooms in a floor, so that could be, you know.
Yeah.
But I once again, that depends on like where you stay. Obviously, some buildings have more amenities. But yeah, I think those are like the most noticeable things. Definitely like the location matters, for like where you need to be at certain times. Oh, also like, I guess what I learned this year also is like, I basically have to think about my day before I leave the house, because part of me usually throughout the day doesn't want to walk all the way back, and I usually just stay around campus until the end of the day. So that's another thing I have to get used to.
Yeah, I feel like after I moved off campus too, it was like I don't want to leave campus once I'm on campus, and if I'm like already off campus, I don't want to go back.
Yeah, especially when it's cold or rainy. Yeah. So.
Do you guys have? Is your laundry covered by your like rent?
Yeah. But it's just like literally only one washer and dryer, so we literally have to be patient or time it right. Yeah.
You know what's crazy? Our laundry, we have to pay $2, like $1 to wash, $1 to dry, but it's in unit. It's like in our house.
Wow, no, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's capitalism.
You're not real.
Yeah, that's insane.
Oh, I was curious more about your financial wellness job. I guess like what are some of the other responsibilities that you have as a financial wellness?
Yeah.
What's the name of your role actually?
Yeah, so originally I joined the team as a program associate, I think was my title. Basically I worked in the background doing more like logistics. But then this year our team like transitioned to a new format, and we're all peer educators. That's our title. So what we do is we all get trained to do workshops on like financial topics. And also we're trained to counsel other students who have any questions about their finances. And that's essentially what we do. And like anyone can come to us for a workshop. And then anyone can come to us for a counseling session too. And, you know, we just try to give people advice, help whenever possible, and education first and foremost. Yeah.
What would be like the main thing you would want to promote to like Big W students, given like all of your expertise on this?
Yeah, I would say like definitely come in for a counseling session is very helpful. I remember before I even joined, I went in for a counseling session, and like it taught me how to budget money, and that was pretty cool, learning about that. And we always have free food at our workshops, so I know we love our free food, so y'all should come for that. But no, like it's really nice to like get an understanding at least about your finances?
So I guess as like a first gen low income student, how have you like kind of navigated like the culture of money within both like academic and social environments?
Yeah.
Just especially with like a lot of the extracurriculars you do. I'm sure like those cost some money. Like how have you approached those?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I guess when I came here to Penn, I kind of knew that I would be doing everything on my own because I knew that my parents couldn't really financially support me. So like, even with like trying to get a job here, was one of the first things that I did. I remember I worked at like the Red and Blue call center even during COVID, my first year, and then when I got here, I was like a TA. But then I was looking for a better job, and that's when I joined financial wellness, which was amazing. And you know, it was like a way to just get some extra money. In terms of like social spending, yeah, sorry, I don't know, I'm just like, I have hiccups. Yeah, like that's definitely something that was like a shock. Seeing like, I'll never forget when like people were talking about, oh yeah, like there's like a yacht party, but it's like the tickets are like $200. And I'm like, what? Oh. I was like, I can't do that. Or even like, even like going out to dinner. I remember there was like a dinner, and when I was like growing up, for some reason I always got friends with like the older students, I guess, so, like seniors, who typically already have had at least an internship or have had like time to like get money, and then like they would go to like these nice dinners, and I like oh yeah, like it's gonna be like 50 per person. I was like, oh yikes. I don't know if I could do 50, but getting used to that. What else? I think those are basically some of the things, like really getting used to the shock of like what people spend, how they spend it, but then also realizing like I don't have to do that. I still just, you know, I'm pretty simple, and I just, you know, I spend for what I want, and that's it. I just ignore like, okay, cool, like they're having a good time, good for them, but you know, I don't have to spend like that.
Yeah, me personally, that FOMO will get you.
Yeah.
Like especially with like some of like the cliche restaurants that everybody mentions here, like imagine like what's it called, like Fogo de Chao, or like dim sum house, or like I don't know if those are really really expensive.
No, that's true.
But it's just like I hear people be like, oh yeah, I went there like last week and it's so good. I'm over here like I'm over here like using a meal sweat to get gourmet grocery. Yeah.
Dim Sum House is one of those places where I was like, oh damn, it's a big bill. But
we're splitting it. No.
No, I'd be embarrassed sometimes. I'm like y'all, like, can we split this? But you gotta do it.
You gotta.
Yeah. Everyone like pays like $5 for like a dumpling.
Yes, exactly.
That's how it is. Or even like some of the, like I don't party like that, but one of the parties that are coming up, they charge like $25 for the ticket, and like that in theory is not a lot, but like I don't know, 25. I don't know, for a party I'm probably not gonna enjoy it. Or like I know there's another one coming up that my friend told me about. She was like, oh yeah, they start at 60.
60?
Yeah, they start at 60. But she's like, oh, like people pay over 100 usually. I'm like, nah, like
no, thank you.
That's insane.
Yeah,
but, yeah, like I only think about that money when like I want to buy flights home, and even then it's like, you know, it's like 100 is like a lot, you know. So I gotta save up for things like that. So yeah. On
the topic of kind of like saving, budgeting, how you said you're highly aided, right?
Yeah.
So you get like a refund from Penn.
I do.
What's the plan? How do you like budget everything? Make sure everything.
So, I'm not gonna lie. My first few years, I don't know how I did it. I guess I just had a good sense of like how I spend. But if I'm being not honest now in retrospect, like it's really important to have like a budget. And one of the first things that we learn at Financial Wellness, or like one piece of advice we like to give, is if you're gonna look into budgeting, track a month of your expenses, literally for a month, because in a month you can see like all your behaviors, and like sure, like there may be one or two like expenses that are off, but you know, that's just like how life goes. But really it was just like getting an understanding of how I like to spend. I realized pretty quick like I like to eat out a lot, so that's why I tend to spend a lot of money there. But then again, I barely go out to like movies or anything like that, so I knew like I was good there. So basically it came down to like, can I afford to buy food? Can I afford like at least a trip home once a month? So just like being aware, more or less, like calculating what that looks like for a few months. But yeah, like at first, to be honest, when I got the refund, I was like, oh my god, I have so much money, and like I felt pretty good about spending it. But then I realized towards the end of the semester, I'd always like running short. So I was like, So now, when I joined Finwell, I got better about like getting a budget, looking at like how much I get in the refund, and then the good thing is we have a budget template that tells you like, if you divide it over the semesters, the amount of months in a semester, this is how much you would have per month, in terms of income, and then that's like a better way to approach it. So like,
nice.
if I have like $1,000 of income for my refund, like I could spend up to that in terms of expenses plus whatever I make from my job.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it kind of makes me like segue into the next question. Like, what do you think is like a really good mindset for like, or like what mindset do you think is like crucial for like Figley students when it comes to like managing like their finances and stuff?
Yeah, I would say like first accepting that we probably don't have the most resources when it comes to that, and it takes a lot for us to learn about it on our own, unfortunately. But you know, I feel like this is a very good time to explore like your relationship with money, especially like we're at this point where like not kids anymore, but we're also not fully adults yet for most people. So really just trying to use these years to get an understanding of how you spend money, or you know, like what do you like to spend on, like what brings you joy when you do spend money, because at the end of the day we're all going to spend money. That's just how life goes. So really just finding out like what you like to spend on, what you don't like to spend on, you know, maybe what are some of the behaviors you could cut back on to then be better, or what are some behaviors that you could implement for the future that could help you out. Just having those kind of mindsets, I think is very awesome.
Awesome.
I guess like the next question I wanted to ask was more so like, when you were talking about like relationships with money, right? And
Yeah.
it's just like, do you think that goes beyond just like it being like a material thing, or do you think it like kind of encompasses more so like mental health as well, or like emotional?
No,
like,
it
attachments
definitely,
and
for me, I think it definitely encompasses like emotional and mental health, because like, yeah, like I feel like maybe some point during my sophomore year, like when, as I mentioned, like I would spend a little bit too much, and then towards the end of the year I was like, oh my god, like how am I gonna buy a flight home, or when I started using credit cards, it was like, how do I pay off this credit card on time, or like, you know, where am I getting like the money from for next week or something like that. So like, yeah, I would say there's definitely an emotional aspect to this, to that relationship with money. As I've mentioned already, like, you know, your behavior, what you like to purchase, obviously it can influence your emotions. If you feel bad about purchasing something, or even about if you're stressed about how are you going to make ends meet, or you know, maybe even like stressing about, oh, I have to cut this out in order to be able to eat. Those are all like stressful emotional situations. Even when it comes to things like family, I know in our community, like it could be hard, because you may have to, you know, send money back home to your family, or you know, something happens and now you have to kind of maybe help out. I know like I had a situation with that with my parents, and it was something that I wasn't ready for, and it definitely caused me a lot of stress. But you know, those are just some of the things that if you keep budgeting, if you keep being aware of your relationship with money, hopefully some of those unexpected things become expected unexpected things. So hopefully, you know, you become less stressed over time. I know now I'm definitely in a better place in terms of my relationship with money than I was when I first started. So, you know, it does take time, but everyone can get there.
Yeah. I mean, so just speaking from like my experiences with money, I've always been very like scared. Like I say that, but like I spend money so much, but like still, like in terms of like, especially when I was fighting for like my highly aided status, like that was like such an emotional battle. Like I remember all of my fall semester, it was like literally every day I had to fight financial aid just so I could be recognized, and like my family wouldn't have to be put through so much of a financial burden just so I could get an education, which in itself is like such a really big overarching topic in like a lot of communities. And I don't know, like when it comes to finances, it just is very easy to get stressed out, especially when you come from places where money isn't so available, and then
Right.
you're met like on a campus where practically there's more of like the top 10% at this
Yeah.
campus than there are of the bottom 1%, which is like, that realization in itself makes me just feel like I get very humbled. I'm just like, okay, I don't have like a Canada Goose,
Yeah.
right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things like that. Just like money is like a very touchy subject for me as like a Figley student. So.
Yeah. And it's great if like, I feel like one thing that helped a lot was just finding that community that comes from a similar place as I, so that we could get more comfortable talking about things like that. Maybe even like poking jokes at the Canada Goose, things like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the thing you said with like money in relation to like family and that kind of like dynamic. For I guess like looking back as well, like when like coming from a place where just like a lack of money, but and then like receiving like a refund that's like basically like 10K or something, and just being like, what the what is this? How would you also like describe like the emotions of that? And then I guess like I feel like it's a lot of like complex emotions with like maybe like guilt because like you have so much money now that is just like at your fingertips that you could like also like give back to your family. Like how did you like navigate that? What was the experience like?
Yeah, I remember I told my parents, even my first year when I was at home for COVID, like I still was able to get a refund. Yeah, they're like, oh wow, like you're getting that much. But it was like in a way that I was like, I felt a little guilty, right? Because everyone was like struggling back then. I guess in my particular situation, my parents have always been very, allowed me to be very independent, which I'm grateful for. Even though there is sometimes where I'm like, oh yes, like I can help you guys out. They're like, no. Like worry about yourself first, which is, I'm glad they are like that, but I do know not everyone's like that. Everyone's parents are like that. But one lesson I did learn like over my career so far is like put your oxygen mask on before helping others. And I feel like it applies to this because obviously you want to help your parents or your family, but really like you need to try your best to focus on yourself right now, because then hopefully in the future that will lead to like a much better outcome where then you could help them out even more than you would have helping them out. You know, like the sacrifice now will be worth it later. That's kind of like the mindset I have, because even now, I still get refunds and I still feel like, oh, like I could probably send money home, or like even when like they come to visit me, I'm like, oh, I could pay for your flight, but they're like, no. So there is that feeling of guilt. But now I guess I'm starting to realize like, okay, like now I have a job, hopefully, in the, coming up, and I know that I'll be able to help them more. So that's just how I rationalize it. But obviously it's a tough conversation. There are some families that are stricter, that want to be more controlling of their kids' finances for one reason or another. But you just have to kind of think about yourself first.
I think I've been blessed to have one of those families where they're like, like any money that you get, keep it, because it's just like, they know, like, especially living in a city where everything is so expensive, like especially like something like food. Like I personally like really despise eating at dining halls, so sometimes I just have to like resort to going like Acme and getting ingredients to cook, or like going out to like Chipotle, for example, to get food. Like I know I'm just really happy that Penn allows me to get like this refund check and like use it for things that I know, like it feels guilty like being like buying food like this, especially when back home it would be like you have to eat whatever's at home, or like type of mindset. But like here it's just like you kind of have to do it like off of like survival, and I think it's that shift that makes it very awkward for me. I guess to kind of like stray away from what you just said about your job, you said that I know you mentioned in your biography, your what's it called?
Bio.
In your bio, I remember you mentioned in your bio that you were like gonna be an incoming like Capital One associate. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that? Like, what does that job look like?
So one thing I like to say is that I'm someone who likes to do a lot of different things. I get bored of like doing the same thing, which I don't know, I guess so far has been a good thing. Maybe one day it'll be a bad thing, but even though like I'm in the business school right in Wharton, I've always had a lot of varying interests. So like each of my internships have been at 3 different companies: Capital One, Paramount, and Nationwide. Three very different industries. But I just really like exploring and finding out what I like. And so this year, I was looking for a job, and since I had worked at Capital One, I considered going back. And you know, people kind of encouraged me to like look back at opportunities that were available, and one of them was very different from what I had learned here in Wharton, but it's basically a program to go through a coding bootcamp and then become a software engineer, which is very different from what I've studied, but it's something that, like, tech is something I've always liked, and I feel like this is a cool challenge, a cool program that I want to take advantage of, and I think that in the future, hopefully, my plan is to get that technical skill and then blend it with like my business knowledge and hopefully do something with that. But yeah, I was just looking for a job first and foremost. Given the climate, it wasn't looking like it was gonna look too good, but was able to get that. And then the second thing is I really wanted to go home, but all the things that I applied for at home either weren't that interesting to me, or they straight up rejected me. So yeah, and then this unfortunately wasn't at home, but I've worked for Capital One before, and I know the culture is great, so I think that's what allowed me to make that decision. And also, like, I feel like I'm really gonna like the job. Yeah.
Well, first off, congrats. That's
Thank you.
amazing. Like, come on, you're like first gen low income, entering these spaces, representing Latinos everywhere. I think that's amazing.
Thank you.
And I guess I wanted to ask you like a little bit more about like job searching then, because I know like job searching is something that I haven't even really put any thought of as a sophomore, or about to be rising junior, which is crazy.
Right.
But how did that look like for you?
Yeah, I guess the one thing about Wharton is they prepare you well to look for jobs. It's the one thing I'll give them. But yeah, like I've always applied. I've been applying to things since like freshman year in terms of like internships and stuff. But it's always a very stressful process. And even then, like I don't even go for like the crazy hard things you have to interview for. So like consulting and IB is what everyone talks about, which is super annoying. Whatever. But it is a stressful process because you have to think about first and foremost like what do I like, or like what are some possible things I want to do, and then from there you have to actually apply, make a resume, which is also so stressful. But I kind of perfected that, so I'm kind of glad I got over that. Writing a cover letter, which is also stressful. Then you have to do like networking, which is something I learned later on, but it's like, oh, if you don't talk to anyone at the company before you apply, you have like no chance, which is something I learned later on, which is something that, you know, I feel like our community doesn't know about. And then actually having to go through the interviews, because some companies want to be trolls and be like, oh, you have 3 interviews. And I was, for Capital One, I had 3 interviews, so that was a lot.
3 interviews?
Yeah, in one day.
Jesus.
Yeah, that was,
oh my God.
That was a lot. And then like even other companies, it was like 4 rounds of interview and like spread out. So literally every interview was stressful because you didn't know if you were moving on or not. And yeah, that could all be very stressful. And like, it's also stressful because if you keep getting rejected, you feel demoralized. I know I did. I think I got rejected like 5 times before I got the acceptance. So I was like, damn. But I was like, you know, I need to keep going. And even for my internships, like I got rejected so many times before getting something. But you know, I feel like I like to have the mindset that I'm very optimistic, and it's like everything will happen. You know, everything will fall into its place. So that's always the mindset I have. So I just keep going until that thing happens. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I like that little joke you made about the Wharton School.
Yeah.
I kind of actually do want to ask, would you say that the Wharton School like shaped any sort of like understanding of like financial wellness besides like your job? Like, do you think that like Wharton specifically prepared you for stuff like that?
I guess like some classes taught me about like technical theories about how to invest and stuff, but like not too much, I would say. I feel like it was more of a conceptual thing. I know one thing I did come to learn is like in one accounting class we learned like how managers should like run like decisions for like their companies and how it relates to like finances and financial statements. And I feel like since then I've been very aware of like basically how can I turn my life into a business almost. It's kind of weird to say, but that's low-key how I think about things is like am I investing in things that will make me better or like make me more financially well or that will make me happier. You know, if I want to be profitable as a person, like, am I making enough money first and foremost, and then if I'm not, what do I have to cut back on? Like, what expenses are not doing it for me? So I guess in that sense, that's what Wharton has done to me, is like made me think of myself as a business, which I don't think is a good thing, but whatever. Like, it works for me and my mindset. But no, I just feel like a lot of other things I've kind of learned outside of the classroom, either through extracurriculars or like other people, because there's a lot of smart people here. So yeah.
I think that's a really good mindset to have in general. I remember I kind of like, ever since you said that, I've kind of thought about the episode recording with Kia a few episodes back. She mentioned this book that she read about multipliers, adders, subtractors, and dividers in your life, and like recognizing like people as like, I don't like to say like putting like labels on them or anything, but seeing like who really will help, like is like really like supporting your growth. And then you like kind of applying that sort of mindset internally, being like, what am I doing to make myself profitable? Like, what is the return of investment in pursuing this and stuff like that? And I think that's just like a very, very like wise way to think about things. Just because it's just like, at the end of the day, you only have yourself, right? And you're always just trying to continue improving. And that's just like a really like good piece of like wisdom to just have. Just think about like yourself as profitability. I think that's like a really really nice mindset.
Yeah. But maybe some people might not like that.
I don't know. I think it's just very interesting.
Maybe.
You know what?
Appreciate it.
You're good. I wanted to go back to, very briefly, just like your job search, and then you said you had to go through a lot of rejection before you finally made it to like the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
What like strategies or what like helped you the most in like making it past like all of those like rejections and like really like pushing through, like believing that you can make it?
Well, one thing I think for me, it's always when my mindset is if something doesn't work out, there's a reason for it, or like if one door closes, another one opens. That's just how I like to think about things. So sure, like even my first year, like when I applied to Capital One, it was like by accident. Like literally someone reached out to me because it was a new program they were doing, and it wasn't even a job at first. It was just to do like a quick like 1 week summit during winter break. And then after that, actually they invited us to apply. Funny enough, the first time I said no because I didn't think I didn't want to work at a bank. So I was like, nah, I don't want to do this. But then they reached out to me 2 weeks later. It's like, are you sure you don't want to do this? And I was like, okay, whatever, I'll apply. And that's how I got my first internship, which I feel like was complete luck, to be honest. But after that, my second year is like I was looking for entertainment internships because I really wanted to explore that area because I liked it. But first and foremost, I learned that you can't really just apply to companies. It's very hard that because the entertainment industry, one thing I learned is like everyone wants to work there, which means that one, they don't have enough positions, and two, they probably won't pay you a lot, because if you want to get paid more, they'll just replace you with someone who wants to work there and is willing to get less. So that's one thing. Well, hard lesson.
That was a humbling lesson just there. That is literally the industry I want to work in.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, maybe in the future it'll work out. But with that, like I remember I got rejected by like Warner Brothers. I got rejected by Disney. I got rejected by I don't even know, some other companies. And then the last opportunity I had was with Paramount, and even then it wasn't necessarily for something that I wanted, but you know, like you kind of have to think of yourself like yes, like you might think you're all that, but at the end of the day you're just a student, and you don't have a lot of knowledge. So like what can you really contribute? Very little in the grand scheme of things. So you just have to take it as an opportunity to learn, and then show them what you're capable of, so then they could keep you in the future. So that's why like I stuck with the Paramount job. Like it wasn't anything crazy, but I ended up liking it. It was cool. I was really cool with my manager. And finally with Nationwide, this was definitely one that was like out there because I wanted to do something with marketing. And this was, I applied to a lot of things this year, and even with tech, I remember this is like the year I really got into like tech, and I wanted to do like product management. So I applied to Google, Amazon, Facebook, all those things, and then got rejected by all of them. And that's when I quickly learned like I may not have the skills that I really need to be working at these companies now. So I got a marketing offer from Nationwide, and I was like, okay, I like marketing, but like, I don't know about, the insurance industry. But once again, I was like, who am I to complain about this opportunity? And it was also in Columbus, Ohio, and I was like, what am I gonna do in Columbus? I'm a Miami boy,
middle of nowhere.
but I ended up enjoying it a lot, and like, once again, I just showed up, I did my work, got recognized, and was something else that I could add. And then finally, I feel like all of that culminated into what I applied to this year for Capital One. So I would say, like, sometimes things aren't perfect, but there are always going to be opportunities. It's just whether you take them or not.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to like look at things. Like, you might not have like see like what the end goal is.
Yeah.
I guess like in your case, but then when you're able to like take an opportunity, learn a lot from it, and then like eventually make it.
Yeah, and even now, I don't know what the end goal is after this program.
That's okay.
I might stick with it. I might not. I don't know if I'll be successful, but we'll see.
Knowing you will be successful.
Yeah.
We'll try.
We'll try. I mean, speaking from like experience, like I guess like internship season for me was like literally like this past month and the month before that, like especially with marketing for me.
Yeah.
A lot of marketing internships look for juniors, which I think is just like just all the ones that I found interesting and the ones that I really really wanted. Which is like let me try, and I still applied to a lot of them even if they were looking for juniors, and
yeah,
I'm only rejection, so I was just like it sucks.
Yeah,
but
it does suck.
I luckily am gonna work as like a peer mentor again over the summer as like a senior peer mentor.
Nice.
And I think what I've recognized and what I've learned from a lot of the people that I work with, it's just like you can like shape your role in the job to like kind of fit with what you really want to do. So like as a peer mentor, you're kind of more so like just like advising, like guiding people and stuff like that. Yeah. But I think they have given me like the avenue to be also like a very creative person, like and be in charge of like let's say like social medias or like making flyers and stuff like that, like event planning. And I think it's just like really like especially like how you phrase it, like who are you to complain about like I guess like the Nationwide like offer or something like that. Yeah. I guess like who was I to complain about getting like the senior peer mentor role or anything like that, because frankly it's everything that you do over the summer is like a learning experience, and it's better to do something than nothing, because frankly like I feel like that's just like what you kind of have to do, especially in the industries that we're trying to be in. Exactly. I mean Cesar, I know Peter's pre-med and all,
that's
but
a whole different monster.
But yeah, I guess it's just like more so I've learned that you can really shape or like any experience to like cater towards something that you're interested in, because like as a peer mentor, like that was like one of the things I really wanted to do. Was like, is there any way I can do anything marketing related or design related? And they were like, yeah, here's like some things you can do if you want. Yeah. And then I would take them on, and then like eventually they get added to my like resume and stuff. And I think that's just like very valuable.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, that's the right way to go about it.
The world is your oyster.
Exactly.
As long as you take the initiative.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I guess the next thing I wanted to ask was more of like a personal like story. Like what, like more so, especially about like financial literacy. I kind of want to go back to that just because I do think that you have a very unique perspective, especially on this campus, being Figley, working at financial wellness, and then now going to work in a finance related industry. Like, what is like a personal like story you have that like has shaped like some sort of understanding for like your Figley identity and being financially literate? If you can think of one.
Deep.
Yeah.
To be honest, I feel like it's just like the opportunity that I got now to work there, because like as I mentioned, like I was applying for a lot of jobs, and I guess one thing is like I wanted to go home because that's where the family is, and like that's where I feel more comfortable. But when I was applying, I kind of started to realize like I might not get exactly what I want. And then I think honestly, in relating to my like Figley identity, it's just like getting rejected, because I feel like, once again, it's like we don't get many opportunities. So like I was just trying to find the right opportunity for me. I think with the CODA program that I'm doing at Capital One, the good thing is like they literally aim for diversified people, and they aim for people that are non-computer science majors. I feel like that's a good way to like start attracting like diverse talent. So I think really getting this opportunity, and also someone who vouched for me at the company because they saw how good of a worker I was. I think they were also Figly, so kind of having that connection was really helpful. And I think like the biggest moment was like when I got the offer and just seeing like, the money, the bonuses, like the benefits package, and like just getting that. Like it took me a few days to like, you get the phone call when you get the offer, and it's just like these are the details of your offer, and just like hearing some of those numbers like really made me happy because I never thought I'd hear things like that. Telling my parents about it, and like, it's more money than they make combined type vibe, telling my friends about it, telling my boss about it, and then talking with her through like, okay, like now how do I think about how much money to put away in my 401k or something like that. Obviously like thinking ahead. I feel like a lot of those things relate back to like my Figly identity and feeling like I made it now. And yeah, I just feel like everything I've learned, like, in my interviews I talked about financial wellness, and like I'm here to like help people, and I helped it related to my Figly identity too, because it's like I did things for like the minorities here. I feel like I always try to empower people, and like I guess that really resonated with the people that interviewed me. So that's how like my Figly identity helped me, despite in the other instances maybe getting rejected because like I don't have the experience, I don't have like the background in terms of like family and money, but yeah, I got the opportunity with Capital One now.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't know, just like knowing like my like core values and everything, I just think it's like so amazing to see someone like you like reach like these like milestones and stuff, just because I'm all about uplifting any minority community, especially like the first gen low income community, just because we know the struggle, like we have gone through similar experiences, and like especially like what you just said about like seeing like that the number, and then being able to tell your family like, oh my god, like after like these 4 years of like hard work, like I can't imagine just like how much like moment. Yeah
and like another thing is like I've never been someone who's been about the number, but I guess it's like shows like I'm on a track towards something, hopefully it's the right track, but yeah, it was a good feeling.
Yeah, and I feel like it's also in part because of all of like the sacrifices that like our parents like made for us as well. Now that we're able to, we like made it past like this first step out of like many, arguably. I feel like you definitely like deserve like celebration.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, yeah, that's what my parents say. Yeah.
But I guess like given like all of these like milestones that you're hitting now, I guess the next question I wanted to ask you is more in retrospect about like if you could travel back in time and give your college freshman self like a piece of advice, what do you think that would be?
Yeah, I think one thing I really struggled with here at Penn, specifically at Wharton, was like trying not to get caught up in the wave of doing what everyone else is doing. And I've always been that type of contrarian person, but it was always a struggle because I felt like everyone was literally doing the same thing, and I was like, am I doing something wrong? Because they seem like they're doing way better than I am at this current point in time. So really one advice is like, don't compare yourself to others. Like you have your own life. You don't even know like if they're happy with what they're doing, and if they are, great for them, but you never know. Obviously that's their life and you have yours, so try your best not to compare yourself to others. I know it's hard, especially our background and where we are. But secondly, I would tell myself like, now that I know how things turned out, just stay the course. Keep that same mentality about not doing something just because everyone else is doing it. Like do something because you truly want to do it. Because even now, some people that are doing like those jobs, one, like the industry is kind of having a bad moment, so people are getting like shelved or like not actually working, or they're getting pushed back, or they're even more stressed now. So I'm glad I just stayed the course to what I liked. I would tell myself like literally do everything you can, like explore different avenues to explore different sides of you. I'm really glad that I was able to do that throughout my 4 years here. Like I literally did things I didn't know I would do. Like, I do stand-up comedy. Like, if you would have told me that in high school, I would have been like, what are you saying? Like, you know, I literally dance. Like,
good dancer too. Like
chill,
amazing.
Chill.
Man of many talents.
Like I would have never known that I was capable of these things if I didn't try it. I literally climbed Patagonia, and I'm from Miami. There are no mountains in Miami. So literally there are so many cool things here to do. Like, just do them. And then if you don't like it, you don't like it. That's cool. Yeah. I learned that I really didn't like being marketing chair of a club. And then that was fine, you know. I learned that, you know, like, I do love sports, but I think I love sports more as like an audience person instead of like working in sports, because it's very different.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's things like that. Mm-hmm. You just have to do it and you know, learn from that. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. I feel like just from talking to you for like maybe like 2 hours, like max at this point, I feel like you're like a very like, what's the word? Like reflective person. Yes. Where you like constantly like, as you're like doing different things, you're like constantly like, oh, how do I feel about this? Yeah. Like I see like all the gears, which is really awesome.
This is true. Yes. I try to reflect a lot, to be better, learn from my mistakes, or keep doing what's working. Yeah.
Well, I guess to segue into like a sort of closing type of question, what is one thing you want listeners to take away from this episode?
Yeah, I would say like really try to understand yourself, right? Whether that is with money, as we talked about earlier, understanding like your relationship with money, whether it comes to like your interests or for a job, like understand like what is it that you really like, and don't just do like what your family may be telling you to do or like what others are currently doing around you. It's like what would make you happy, even if you fail in getting there, or even if you don't get exactly what you want, like what would make you fulfilled. And the last thing would really be like, if you were to graduate tomorrow, what are some of the things that you would regret not doing? And I think that's really what motivated me to do like a lot of things over the past year and a half. That's definitely what motivated me to do Onda, because I told myself, if I don't go to this audition, I'll live with the regret of not knowing whether or not I even have a chance of dancing. But if I go to the audition and don't get in, I at least know that I tried, right? Mm-hmm. So giving it at least a try so you don't live with that regret forever, because obviously, you know, this is a one-time thing in college. We might not get back. So yeah, those would be some things. Really get to know yourself.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Cesar. Well, I did want to ask, is there anything that you want to like plug, I guess? Anything that you're a part of that you think is coming up that you want listeners to maybe follow up on? Yeah.
You could follow me on Instagram.
Okay.
At KingXCesar.
Okay.
Come to Financial Wellness at Penn. We have a lot of good stuff going on. And I think that's all I got to plug.
Yeah. Well, I did want to ask you one more thing, actually. You want to close out our episode with a little rap?
Oh, that's crazy.
I'll let you cook for a little bit. I'll let you marinate. I'll let you marinate.
On the spot. Ooh.
It's okay. We'll cut out all of this other space.
Yeah. Okay.
Rhyming's hard.
Boom. Boom.
You get a beat?
I'm literally struggling to find a word that rhymes with goodbye for some reason. That's like cool.
Goodbye.
Okay. I got it.
Vamos.
Okay.
Go ahead, Cesar. Okay. KingXCesar.
Okay. It's your boy Cesar. I've been with Peter and Will. It was a great episode. They the real deal. But now, it's my time to say goodbye. I love you all. Peace and love to the world. Goodbye.
Thank you.
I forgot it. Oh, whatever.
We appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for everyone listening in. If you want to check out more episodes, follow us on Spotify at the Figly Podcast, as well as our Instagram at Figly Podcast.